Welcome to tonight's budget workshop, June 2nd, 2021. And sorry for the delay. We were waiting for one member to arrive so that we could form a quorum. Dr. Azaiz, do we have a public comment?
Good evening, Dr. Valdez and board members. For the record, we do not have anyone who signed up for public comment this evening.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to budget and facilities workshop.
And thank you, Dr. Valdez and board members again for joining us tonight. We prepared a budget workshop for you, and also we're going to be discussing the facility, going back on over the facility assessment briefly. And also we are invited Mr. or Dr. De Los Santos from our financial advisor to speak to us about possibly a bond or the early stages of a bond. So that will be the agenda for today. But without any delay, I would like to ask Ms. Cancino to start us off with a lot of great information, great news that we'll be sharing with you tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Azaiz, and good evening, members of the board and the public. Thank you, Dr. Azaiz.
Is it better? Yeah.
Okay, so we're here to present budget workshop number 2. And today I'll be discussing the projected enrollment in ADA for the 21-22 school year. I'll go over the tax rate, the health insurance fund, the capital projects fund, 21-22 projected revenues, 21-22 projected expenditures, 21-22 projected budget for general fund, 21-22 compensation scenarios, an update on the ESSER 3 grant, and any recommendations or comments. The first item, the projected enrollment in ADA. Here is a historical view of the past 4 years, current year, past 3 years, current year, and what we're projecting for next year. Normally, you look there at the percent, ADA is about a little over 92% of enrollment, except for the year 1920 last year, which was adjusted by TEA to account for the additional ESSER grant. So they reduced our ADA when they replaced the funding with the ESSER grant. What I use for the 21-22 school year is an average ADA percent of school year 17-18, 18-19, and 20-21. So I applied, it's a little over 91%. This year is about 91%. So the average is closer to 92%. So we are projecting enrollment of 13,880 with ADA of 12,737. This is the number that we're using to build our budget, the 12,737. Here is a breakdown of the enrollment by grade levels and by campuses. For the tax rate, here is the historical for the past 3 years. Current year, we are at 99 cents, and we are estimating for next year to go down to 96 cents. For M&O only, we will keep our INS the same at $13.90, so we are projecting a tax rate of almost 10 cents. The reduction is due to an increase in property values. There was a 14% increase in property values compared to last year. Here, what's also important to note, the district, we can also take advantage of disaster pennies to raise additional taxes on the M&O side. These pennies are available for 1 year following a disaster, which we had last year with Hurricane Kenneth. You don't need voter approval for this. You can adopt the pennies, and then they're only valid for 1 year, and then they go away. So really, you want to use these pennies for one-time projects. And overview of the health insurance fund. And you see here the historical for 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. You see here where it says as transfer in. That means that's how short it was from the revenues to the expenditures that we had to transfer in money from the general fund to keep the fund in the positive. So here in 17-18, the net position for the health insurance fund ended with 756,000. In 18-19, it had a transfer in from the general fund of almost $4.4 million and ended with a net position of almost $500,000. For 19-20, there was no transfer in. You see, there was actually a surplus if you look at revenues over expenditures. So we ended with a net position of 1.4 million. For this year, we have expenditures of almost 19 million, and these are projected expenditures of almost 19 million with revenues of 15.5 million. So we are estimating another transfer in from the general fund of almost $2 million for this year. This is budgeted for this current year. For next year, in talking to our consultant, Gallagher, and in health insurance committee meetings, I know that there's been discussion of increasing both the employer share and the employee share. Here, for this number for revenues, it is anticipating an increase of $45 per employee from the district, and then the employee share will vary. So basically what it is a difference. What we're anticipating that we're going to increase for next year, we're splitting it half and half employee share and half employer share. This is a historical fund balance for the last 3 years. These are audited numbers. You see there the general fund, and I included the capital projects. The general fund last year ended with a fund balance of 52 million. The capital projects fund ended with a fund balance of $10.5 million. Over the past 3 years, the fund balance has increased by $8 million. In the capital project fund, transfers have been $15.6 million. Combined is $23.6 million that has been an operating profit for the general fund. Here's a breakdown of the capital projects fund. For the 16-17 school year, there were no projects. There was also no fund balance. The following year, we had a transfer in from the general fund of $4.8 million, and this was for the Todd middle school wing. In 18-19, we transferred another $4.8 million, and this was for the wing, for the Todd middle school addition, furniture, also for the new addition. That ended the fund balance for year 19 at 6.1 million. For 19-20, we had another transfer in from the general fund, $6 million. So that ended the fund balance with the $10.5 million with some of the things that we did with that money, or for that year, last year, what we did, it was the new marquee signs for 22 campuses. And we had the renovation of the M building for the Donna Early College High School. For 2021 current year, we are estimating expenditures to be at 7.8 million. We do not have a scheduled transfer in, but there should be enough money to do an additional transfer in if that's what the board decides. And we're estimating a fund balance to end at almost $3 million. Some of the projects are the stadium turf and field replacement at 1.2 million, stadium scoreboard, 755,000, playground upgrades, 839,000, HVAC, 431,000, the Wi-Fi towers at 3.7 million. There's a new chiller pipe at the Donna High School that's being replaced for 200,000, and lighting at both Donna North and Donna High School, about $250,000. That will still leave a fund balance at the end of the year when those projects are completed of 2.7 million. Some of the things that we've discussed, if you look here at the bottom in red, for 21-22, we discussed the possibility of new restrooms for the stadium with an estimated cost of $1.5 million. And we also discussed the running tracks for the elementary schools at an estimated $1 million cost. So there is enough money to do both projects for next year without doing an additional transfer in. This is for next school year, and this is what we're estimating our revenues should be for the general fund. We have taxes at 16.7 million. Before I go on, I did separate the general fund from the Mariposa Children's Center so that you can, just to exclude it so that you see, because that skews the numbers a little bit. Prior year taxes at 950,000, penalty and interest 800,000, interest revenue. This year we went down a lot on our interest revenue. We're estimating 100,000 for next year. Athletic activity about 76,000, miscellaneous revenue 100,000. From the available school fund, this is state funding 2.6 million. The foundation school program 119 million. The on behalf payments at 8.6 million. Indirect costs 2 million. SHARs at 2.5 million, and other federal revenue at 50,000 for an estimated $153.5 million from the general fund. Now to this, we add the Mariposa Children's Center revenue under miscellaneous revenue. That's an additional $10.7 million, which brings the total to $164.2 million. Projected expenditures, and this includes no pay increase. This is as it stands right now with nothing additional. It is the general fund. You see there, a bit largest expenditure is function 11 instruction at 82 million for a total of $149.5 million. I have on function 81 the $800,000. This is for the repair of the portable buildings that were damaged with the hurricane. We already received the proceeds, so this is a one-time cost that we'll set aside because we already received that. But the construction hasn't begun, so it's going to roll over into next year. The Mariposa facility, here are the expenditures at almost $7 million for next year, for a total expenditures of $156.4 million. Here is just a general fund, a breakdown by major objects. So you can see here the 6,100s, which are our salaries, are the largest expense we have at almost 82%. And that's at $122.2 million. The general fund, this is a summary of the previous lines. If you see revenues there at 153 million, expenditures of 149 for a surplus of 4 million, plus add in the Mariposa Children's Center with a revenue of 10.6 million, expenditures of 6.8 for a surplus of 3.8 million, and you have the total there. Total revenues estimated at 164 million. Total expenditures 156.4 million for a surplus of 7.8 million. One of the two things I want to point out. One is that in the general fund expenditures is short $5 million. We have $5 million that we moved into the ESSER 1 salary. So when that grant goes away, this $5 million will have to come back to the general fund. And then the estimated profit for the Mariposa program is $7 million. The rest will be recognized. We've already received it this year. So the other portion of it, the other 3.2 million will be recognized this year. Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify to our board members that the total Mariposa treasury is over $16 million.
Right.
But because we already received 5.3 already, if this budget budget year, fiscal year, so that's why Ms. Cancino is only talking about 10.686, because that's where we roll over, I guess, for the next budget school year or budget school. Yep.
Right. So overall, the project, it's about $16 million in revenues, and it'll have expenditures of about 9 million. So that will create a surplus of 7 million that'll be generated from the program. Some possible compensation scenarios. So now in the previous one, we discussed what we had in surplus. I would concentrate on the general fund in those 4 million, because the Mariposa Children's Center, I know we have a contract for 1 year. I don't know how long this facility will be here in Donna. So I would not commit those funds to salaries, but I would to one-time projects. We have here two compensation plan scenarios. The first one is where teachers would be receiving $2,500 general pay increase for a cost of $2.5 million. Administrators, we have the same percent that we've had in the previous 3 years. 3%, 5%, 3% for administrators, 5% for clerical and instructional aides, auxiliary at 7%. And this first plan does not include an increase on the insurance benefit. So it would keep the total cost at $4.6 million. Again, I'm gonna go back to those $800,000 that I pointed out, because if you look at this is still over the $4 million that we have surplus, but those $800,000 are a one-time expense, so they'll go away after next year. So it should be fine. On this one, on the plan number 2, I have teachers at 2,000 for an estimated cost of 2 million, administrators at the same percent, the 3, and then we have the 5 on the other 2, and auxiliaries at 7. This does include an increase of $45 to the insurance benefit for a cost of $1.1 million. So this is a total cost of $532,431. So the new health insurance benefit will be $550. I do want to point out that I have more on the compensation that refers to the ESSER 3 initiative. And I'll go into detail in a little bit. So what is ESSER 3? It is the American Rescue Plan, which includes $122 billion in elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds for school districts across the country. They are one-time funds for the next available for the next 3 years. Donna ISD's allocation is divided into 2 sections. The initial allocation at 2/3 is $50.4 million. The remaining allocation, the 1/3, is at $25.2 million for a total allocation of $75.6 million. The fund plan timelines. So the allocations amounts were released by TA on April 27th. The deadline to submit the application for the plans, and this is very important right here, is July 27th. That is the deadline. Our goal is to have the plan ready by the end of June and present it to the board. Once the plan is reviewed, it gets negotiated by TA, and then after 30 days that we receive the NOGA, we must post the plan on the district website. We do have a site already going. If you go to the district website, there is an ESSER 3 link where your community, parents, students are able to take a survey, and it also has information there on the grant itself. The plan requirements. The plan must be developed and submitted to TEA. The extent to which and how the funds will be used to implement prevention and mitigation strategies that are consistent with the most recent CDC guidance on reopening schools. It must also include how the district will use the funds and 20% to address the academic impact of lost instruction time. That's very important. So 20% of the total allocation must be used for the to address the academic impact of lost instructional time. The plan must also say how it will spend its remaining ESSER funds. It will also, yes, sir. Sure. Lisa, it can be more. Yes. Yes. That is correct. The next one, the plan must also include how the district will ensure that the intervention is implemented and will respond to academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs of all students, and particularly those students disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, including students from low-income families, students of color, English learners, children with disabilities, students experiencing homelessness, children in foster care, and migratory students. The plan must also engage in meaningful consultation with stakeholders, and give the public an opportunity to provide input in the development of its plan. It also lists who the stakeholders are. So these are the groups that we must include. It's students, families, school and district administrators, including special education administrators, teachers, principals, school leaders, other educators, and school staff. And also include the groups as much as we can of tribes, civil rights organizations, and stakeholders representing the interests of children with disabilities, English learners, children experiencing homelessness, children in foster care, migratory students, children who are incarcerated, and other underserved students. After the plan is approved by TEA, the district must post the plan on the website within 30 days of receiving the grant notice, report in ESSER 3 application for funding the website address, and TA staff will continue to monitor the website for posting and content of plan. These are some possible initiatives. We've started the process by having the survey out. So these are just some ideas to consider. By no means does it mean that this is the plan. One of the initiatives is retention stipends. Here, for example, one scenario would be to give teachers in a retention stipend of $3,000. That would cost the district $3,300,000, and it would be for $2,000 for all other staff, which would cost the district $2.7 million. If you do that for 3 years, then it would be an estimated $18 million. Yes.
Just want to clarify again, this is separate, right? So for clarification, this SF3, these are different funds, different. What we discussed earlier is non-ISD budget, permanent, maybe possibly 2,000, like with Mr. Cancino, or 2,500 for our teachers, and that will be part of their salary moving forward. Once you add that as part of their compensation, you cannot take it back. This will be only for 3 years because the ESSER 3 funds are only here with us for 3 years. So just want to make sure we clarify so we all be on the same page.
Right. So this retention stipend would be on top of one of these plans or any other possible plan that the board would like to consider. So it's in addition to this. What I'm having here, we can do it for the duration of the grant, which is 3 years. So for 1 year, the cost is $6 million. So for 3 years, it would be $18 million.
And again, and I know Ms. Cancino alluded to it. We already have the survey. We're sending it. We want to hear from our parents. We want to hear from our students. We want to hear from our staff. We want to hear from board members. We want to hear from all stakeholders. That's the one part of this work to gather, I guess, input and feedback. But we're also going to have some committee meetings, right? Starting to reach out and as many folks as possible because we really need their input. We really need their feedback so we can develop a very solid plan to help us move our district in the right direction and more importantly, recover from the whatever learning loss, whatever issues that our students and our everybody went through, right? So this is just the beginning of a lot of meetings and gathering input, I guess, and in order to create and finalize the plan. But we'll be sharing with you along the way.
Perfect. Okay.
With regard to the survey, is there a specific percentage that must be gathered? Let's say we've got about 13,600 students, give or take right now. Is there a percent of student return surveys that need to be acted, a certain percent of parents?
I believe what we had was a date, a
Yeah.
deadline.
So we pushed it, sir, on social media, on our website. We talked to our principal. We want to, again, we want to be I guess it's so important to have as much input as possible, right? So to reach as many folks as possible. We even do it in Spanish. So it's in English and Spanish. One of the first questions asks you, do you want to complete it in English or Spanish? So we want to make sure we capture as many folks out there as possible. So we are trying to get more, right, participation. But as you all know, I mean, it's end of the day. I mean, we cannot force them. We can incentivize them, but we cannot force people to participate in these surveys.
Right, and what I'm getting at, is really that.
Fernando, unmute your computer.
Unmute?
Yes. Well, I can hear you too, but everybody else can't hear you.
Probably why. Okay, here we go. Hello. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that the intent of these SR3 monies for 3 years are solid. And really everything that you mentioned that we've got on the website, we've got the surveys out there, and it's in Spanish and English, but I'm hoping that we do have a plan of action to take it from the leadership at the campus so that they can engage their campus administration, their counseling, and more importantly, the teachers to get down to their students, to get down to the parents, because it is of utmost importance to really get feedback from the campus, pre-K to 12, because 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, 2 years is a big gap for the academic loss that we got. And
No,
having a
absolutely.
high level of percentage in LEP, boy, I tell you what, we got a lot of ground to make up. So that's my only concern, that we do
Yes,
everything we can to get these surveys.
Absolutely.
And again, the campus is going to be very instrumental, their leadership,
Yeah.
to get all the way down to the students and the parents.
Absolutely, sir. No, I couldn't agree more with you. And I don't know if Ms. Cancino can go back. I mean, they even Esther give us even the stuff that all of everybody who needs to be involved again. If you go back to that slide, it's really, we have to engage students, staff, but also be specific about certain things, right? Like, for example, they talk about including special education administrator, teachers, right? They talk about, like you said, the EL students and the teachers and the students themselves and the parents. That's why we did it in Spanish, because we don't want to dismiss, I guess, or ignore any group of our stakeholders. And then look at everything else in there, right? So, I mean, stakeholder representing the interests of homeless, even like children experiencing homeless, children in foster care. So again, we're gonna try to reach out to all these groups, because not only because we're required, it's because also the right thing to do.
Also, we do have a contract where we're talking about this. The survey is very general and wide, and then it narrows down, right? So it gives us, there's a choice of 10 items in the survey. And people are, we ask them to pick the top 5. And there is also a write-in where they can. So that's very general, and then based on the results from that, then we go back to the campuses where they're going to have APTN meetings, where they're going to be meeting with individual smaller groups, and then it'll be directors and all that. And I'll share that plan with you, because we do have a timeline with dates. Plan is going to incorporate before it's finalized. So, but I want to point out again that by no means is this the final plan. This is just some suggestions. As the district goes forward, I'm just putting some dollar amounts to some of the things that we've looked into. So $8 million for the retention stipend. Again, this will be on top of any other compensation plan the district approves as a general pay increase or a percent increase. Addressing the impact of lost construction, it must be at least 20%. That's a little over $15 million. Here we have estimating about $20 million. HVAC upgrades, these are allowable under the SR3 grant. We're estimating about $5 million. Control system for HVAC and energy, that's an additional $3 million. Air purifiers for classrooms, we're estimating about $3 million. Touchless fountains, $2 million. Sanitation system for buses, $1 million. 10 additional buses, $1 million. Because of the importance of this grant and making sure that we are being compliant with everything that it requires, and probably the amount of purchases that are going to go through that, I'm also recommending maybe a director that needs to be grant funded on the job description, because this position will go away when the grants leave. It can be, I don't know, incorporated later on, it may be into another grant, but I'm estimating maybe a director, a secretary clerk, and maybe an accountant, another professional to help out with the program, about $200,000. We will also move the salaries for that we have on the SR1, the $5 million, into the SR3. That's about $15 million. If we don't move them here, then we will have to pick them up in the general fund. And these are allowable in the program. Also, it allows for indirect costs. So this is very interesting, because this money we charge, and we have to charge indirect costs because we have to treat all the grants the same. it uses the unrestricted rate, which is 12%. So it would actually be a little over 7 million. Of indirect cost, this is money that gets transferred into the general fund. So over there, then you can use it for other purposes. You get more flexibility once it's transferred to the general fund. So this is for a total estimated budget over 3 years of 75.2 million. Any questions?
Yes, Ms. Cancino. Under F, on one of the screens or one of the slides, it says ESSER. When it expires, the salaries will revert back. Which are the salaries that were moved into that?
$5 million of salaries, they are from the general fund. These were the funds that we received that supplanted some of the state funding that we didn't use actually in 1920. We're using it this year. It is classroom teachers.
Oh, so classroom
Yes,
teachers.
they are
Oh, I see.
all of
I
our
see.
classroom teachers.
Okay, okay. And
Mr. Smith, can you
Yes.
just describe a little bit of the supplant, what that means? So,
On the previous ESSER one, the funds that we received from the state for the ESSER one, they were to supplant state funding. So basically what we did, and we go back to this slide right here, the reason this looks so off is because TEA came back and reduced our ADA. Basically what it was is they reduced ADA to reduce $8 million to give us $8 million in general funding. So that's what it is. Thankfully, the district did not need to use any funds on 1920. We still had a surplus last year. So we carried over the entire amount to this year, which is the $5 million in salaries that I discussed earlier. So for this year, they are additional. They are not cutting our state funding for the ESSER 3. ESSER 2 and ESSER 3.
Ms. Cancino,
Yes,
and actually maybe Dr. Sorolla, or just two questions that I have, or Dr. Azaiz. No, I had some conversations, I think, with Dr. Azaiz and one time with Dr. Sorolla. The grass crew, for some reason, there seems to be an issue with the grass crew that they are, I guess because it's a very hard job and they're always in the sun. There seems to be a retention concern there of keeping the retention. So I think I had asked Dr. Sorolla maybe, and I think he said he was going to check with TASB to see if those salaries could be adjusted for hourly rate. To be able to-
Dr. Valdez, I think I remember we're having this conversation and I think Dr. Sorolla is here with us, but the conversation we had is we will be addressing their pay and the compensation plan. Our goal is to bring the compensation plan hopefully for your approval next board meeting, the June 8th.
Okay,
So you will see that reflected in that
Okay.
compensation for
Yeah.
next school year. So we discussed that. Dr. Sorolla, I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Actually, I looked at that just a little while ago. We actually made an adjustment to their compensation at the beginning of the school year. And so we did, and I'm looking to see if we can be more competitive. But Dr. Valdez, we actually made an adjustment at the beginning of this year for all of the lead groundskeepers, stadium groundskeepers, and the general grounds crews. But I'll see if we can be even more competitive, because I agree with you. Anywhere you go, it's hard work outside and on the grass and all
Yes.
that. Yes, ma'am.
exactly. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Ms. Cancino, just the last thing on the first, I mean, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I like the first plan, the 2,500 for the teachers. There's just one change that I would like you to consider, if possible, if you could look at the auxiliary and put them at 9%.
Okay. So you want us to do the first one with a 9% on auxiliary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Any-
ma'am.
I just want to clarify one thing. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't interrupt anyway. Dr. Valdez, no change to health insurance benefit. So no change to the health insurance benefit. That's for Plan A or for the first one, right? So you're saying we should not contribute more, right? Or
No, I'm saying that, like, to keep everything the same except for the auxiliary, if you can adjust it to 9%.
Yes, ma'am. So the two differences in these two plans are, one, the teacher. It's higher on the first one, and that this one, the first one, does not include the $45 increase to the benefit.
And this $45 increase is from the district
Right.
plan. Correct.
So we will leave the health benefit at 505 and increase the auxiliary to 9%.
Right,
Okay,
right.
yes, ma'am. We'll work on that.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, no, that's good. I just want, since we tapped on the compensation plan, that will be brought to us next board meeting. When doing the presentation on the new compensation plan, can we have in red the changes? We can see this is
Yes.
what it was before, and this is what it's going to be in
Yep.
all categories, because I know that we're dealing here with the budget, but I really didn't see how it's going to tap into. So obviously, Ms. Casino, when you're presenting this budget, you've taken into account some of the adjustments for the actual compensation plan?
Yes, sir. And also what we take into account is that there will be an increase on some of the categories for the
Yes.
minimum,
Yeah.
the mid-max, those will be adjusted too. And at the, I think what the last thing we discussed was that our minimum pay will be at $11. So we're also increasing that.
Okay. But again, it really would be very beneficial to all of us to see what it was before and any change in a different color, so we'll know that this is the change that's being projected.
Yes,
And
sir.
if there's nothing to it, then obviously it stays as is. Okay, thank you.
And then just Dr. Azaiz, I guess this would be either you or Ms. Cancino, on the retention stipend that we're looking for the next 3 years, these amounts that are being considered would be paid out like in the December and May, or at the end of the year, or?
A very good question, Dr. Valdez. So we will probably, the best plan that we probably we thought about it is actually do it semester. So let's say we adopt a $3,000 stipend, right, per year. So we probably will disperse them $1,500 in December, and then in May we disperse the other $1,500. So it's a total of 3,000, but it will be divided into two stipend, one for the first semester in December and one for the second semester in May.
Okay, and that's the same thing for all other staff as well.
Any stipend, yeah, any stipend will be divided into two parts, yes. That's
And
the-
these would only be full-time employees. We need to make sure, I guess we understand.
Yes,
It's full-time.
correct, yes.
Right, okay.
Full-time for auxiliary as well, correct?
Correct.
Yes, any full-time
Because
for
it's-
anybody,
yeah,
yeah, anybody is
Because
full.
sometimes there's a misconception out there. You have your year-round employee and
No,
your full-time, but they both fall in the same category. So just
Yeah.
as long as we understand.
I think the only thing, I'm sorry, sir, is the hourlies, like the ones who are maybe part-timers, right? But anybody.
Yeah, those
full-
are subs.
Yeah, yeah,
So the 30 hours, because we have 30-hour bus drivers, correct?
And those
They
will be
would be considered full.
they will be,
They're
Yeah.
full-time. Okay, so part-time, we're looking at 19, 20 hours below.
Yes,
Yep.
below 20 hours.
Got you, got
Correct.
you.
When
And Ms.
will, I'm sorry, well, you just commented a while ago in doing the stipends and semesters. That's I mean, I think that's a good plan.
Thank
So
you.
when you bring that the next time around, is it going to be included? Because this is just a workshop. So you're taking that into account that it may or may not be 3,000 or 3,000,
so
you know.
remember,
So what
So
we
remem-
do, the ESER plan hasn't been submitted and it won't be until after we have the board meeting on the 8th.
yes,
Yeah. July 27th.
We do it to be approved contingent, and I don't know, Tony, contingent on the plan being approved by CEA
Yeah.
on the stipend. Right? The retention is that it's already taken care of as part of the,
Yeah.
part of the compensation, next week.
So-
Okay, good. So I think it's really important for us to continue, and I appreciate that you're making it very clear as well too. SR3 is totally different in the side,
Correct.
separate and apart than your regular year-to-year budget, DISD budget, so that when people are asking about raises and so forth, that's dealing with a DISD budget. When this is, and I like the wording that we're going to keep that as a stipend instead of anything else, because stipend is
Yeah.
they come and they go,
yeah.
and not a
Because-
pay increase. Pay increase is
Right.
going to be part of the record.
Permanent, yes, sir. So that's why I clarified earlier. I said, the $2,000 or $2,500 for a teacher, for example, we discussed earlier, that's permanent, right? So once you add it, it will stay, right?
Yes.
And that's us done ISD, our regular general funds, using our budget, year-to-year budget. This stipend, the $3,000 stipend, right? Or 2,000 for, I think 2,000 for professionals, other staff are contingent to the SR3. So once the plan is approved, we get the money, we start compensating or give them those incentives or those stipends to our staff and teachers.
Correct. And the stipends will be for 3 years.
3 years.
That
Yes.
they stay at the
Yeah.
district.
And that's what we discussed. That's what we're proposing. Obviously, as you know, we just talked about it, right?
Right.
So we're still gathering input and feedback, but we
Yes.
really feel strongly about we need to compensate our staff and to retain them and also So reward them because now, you know, they have to work even harder. I mean, they work hard already. They work even harder to COVID. And now because they have to also adjust, we have to adjust to the learning loss and make sure that that's being addressed. So they even have to work even harder, right? So we try to compensate them, retain them, our great staff, and make sure they're rewarded and that, you know, incentivize them to help our students regain any learning loss.
Ms.
If I-
Cancino, I just have one last question. I'm just like a little bit, like with the health insurance, I'm noticing that for the 1920, the expenditures were roughly about 15 million, and then boom, they jumped back up to almost 19. What caused that?
We're assuming it's COVID. A lot of people that normally would have scheduled surgeries over the weekend and the hospitals were canceling elective surgeries. People were afraid to go out to the doctor also during that time. So we are thinking that that's what's attributed to the reduction in expenditures for that year.
And just the last thing that I want to say, Ms. Cancino, I just want to thank you for the presentation. I'm very pleased with your presentations all the time. You do a phenomenal job. And I'm really saddened to see you go. So I want to thank you for your services to Donna and for always doing an outstanding job in the business office. You're going to be hard to replace. And I'm going to miss you.
I do have one last
Before
I
we go, let me ask a question before we go and see if we can do this. I know we're talking about ESSER funds and we're talking about general funds, but I'd like to see if there's I know that this last year has been very different from any of the years we have in the past. And if we could do something extra for our employees, especially, you know, because it's been COVID, is there any kind of maybe a COVID relief stipend that we can do this December, unlike we've done in the past? Because again, they've been in the front lines, teachers, administrators, our auxiliary have been working continuously. I think that would heighten and increase our plan, as we were talking about, besides the ESSER funds, besides we're trying to do our normal increase. Again, one-time stipend, just as saying, thank you for working so hard for last year. I know that some of these ESSER funds are used for that purpose, but is there something that we can do separately?
Other than the ESSER fund, what I see is that once we approve the compensation, if you go and look back to this right here, we have a projected $4 million. However, from this program here, we're gonna have a surplus of 3.8 million. For this year, there could be something there if you're talking in addition to the retention stipend. Because we're already doing the 3,000 and 2,000 for that plus the pay increase. So it could come out of this money here.
Well, that'd be excellent. I mean, I think it's something that again, they've gone far beyond, I think, for their purpose, and something that I think we can do internally, then would be awesome.
Mr. Perez, we can look into it. We'll be and Ms. Cancino, we'll sit down and look at numbers of a possibility and maybe share with you something for next board meeting on June 8th. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I share exactly the same feelings. I know our staff have been really working very hard, you know, and out there trying to help our students, and despite all the, you know, the concerns with COVID-19, etc. So I'm with you. So we will look into it. And you know, there is a reason why we're trying to get all the stipends for them, and SR3, it provides even more funds for us, right? So we can actually go big, right? And that's, as you can see, our plan is not just for 1 year, but also actually for the next 3 years to do something like that.
Yes.
But we can do something
awesome.
for this past year, because this SR is supposed to be for the 2020 and 2021, I'm sorry, 2021, 2022 school year and beyond, right? But you're talking about retroactive, right? For this current school year.
For this year, correct? Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously that would be very
Yeah.
good.
For current year, Colonel, you're talking about.
Current year,
because-
yes.
Yeah. I see.
Because they're putting closure to the school year.
Yeah.
I see
And
your point.
I'm happy, you know, the fact, yeah, I'm happy that, you know, to report, I mean, as Ms. Cancino was saying, you know, the Mariposa, I know, you know, we had conversation about it, but, you know, it's bringing some extra funding for our district, which could be put in good use. So it's actually, so we will talk, and also talk with Dr. Sharola, obviously, to make sure we come up with something.
Dr.
So this
Valdez.
year, that program is running profit of $3 million. So you'll see that reflected at the end of the year when the books are closed. The that's what I was talking about. Still, there's gonna be a surplus this year. So this is where you need to kind of decide, are you transferring money out again to the capital projects fund? And one of my comments or recommendations is to continue implementing the staffing formulas. The reason we're able to save every year is because we've been very diligent about continuing with our staffing formulas. And this is where we've been able to save money on staff to be able to give back to the staff, because that's why these pay increases the last 3 years have been possible. The retention stipends will be gone after ESSER 3 grant expires. The compensation plan that gets adopted needs to be sustainable once the ESSER funds expire. So we need to look long term. You know, I think we're gonna the district is going to be in a very healthy financial position the next 3 years and probably beyond that. But you still have to be conservative with the general fund, only because of the sustainability. The 5 million ESSER salaries will return to the general fund after the grant ends, and this goes back to the it's sustainable pay increases. So when you think long term, only think those $5 million are going to go back to the general fund. So whatever you see, approve at the 5 million. Consider adopting the disaster pennies. That is a one-time deal.
Yes.
We had it in about 3 pennies will generate about $1.5 million. You could reform the campus. I know Salinas has a lot of needs when it comes to the so that's a possibility also. Continue investing in facility upgrades. Like I mentioned, Salinas has a very big need. So does Price, Cáceres, Rivas, Solis, and Donna High School. I think the portables, they need to be looked into. And those are the ones that I saw with the most need. I did go and tour all the campuses, and I made notes and share with the principals. They have all that information. And then there's a lot of need, and this kind of leads into the next section of the workshop, where it's the facility needs, and possibly consider a bond election. One of the things I left out that I was working on is getting new furniture for the campuses. So we will have a furniture showcase at Veterans Middle School next week. The campuses, the principals are able to go and make selection, see how much funds there are funds available to purchase to start a replacement of furniture. So that's something else I think that the campuses were very excited about. And that concludes my presentation.
If I may add, can we go back to the ESSER 3 possible initiatives? You know, where it has in there, I know we were talking about, you know, we've talked about the stadium, having a new turf, having new things added. You know, as far as the this is concerned, and knowing that we can use certain funds for that purpose when it comes to COVID, there's some equipment obviously to maintain our turf we can purchase that I've already looked into this, which is using almost like a reverse osmosis, where it cleans out the turf and maintains it and sustains for a long period of time. The product costs about $10,000, I think is what it is for each one. It's really a tractor which provides liquids into the item and cleaning some at the same time, and then maintains your turf. So that's something that I think we can probably add into our initiative here to make it sustainable for long term, especially the turf.
Mr. Perez, keep these ideas coming. I mean, that's why we, as I said, that's why we're asking for input and feedback. So we'd love to have such great ideas, innovative ideas, out of the box ideas that can help, you know, our district moving forward. So yeah, so we definitely can look into that, and any other things that you guys may suggest. As I said, I want to thank you for your support. And you know, we couldn't be in this position without your support. I want to make sure that everybody knows. And we are very excited about the budget for next school year and beyond. And you know, we're very competitive. And I know on June 8th, next board meeting, we'll have a conversation about where we stand, and we want to always attract and retain the best talent, and we believe we have the best staff and teachers, and we want to make sure they're rewarded equally, right? So again, thank you for your support, and I want to echo what Dr. Valdez said about Ms. Cancino and her team, and Ms. Cancino and the business office have been doing a great job working, ensuring again that we're in very good financially standing, and that we are a good steward of our taxpayers' money. And we're gonna miss Ms. Cancino for sure. I know it's gonna be hard to replace her. So thank you, Ms. Cancino, for all everything you've done for our district.
If I may, I'd like to add that. I mean, you know, over the years, obviously we've worked diligently on ourselves, trying to assist and contribute to the efforts of Donna ISD, and through your efforts and superintendent's efforts, we've been able to be successful thus far and have a surplus of funds, so we're able to provide our district and our staff raises over the last few years. So I'm very appreciative of that, obviously, and I'm sure our staff and our district personnel are very happy about that. But it's due to people like yourself that continues to work through professionally and support us in those efforts. Hate to see you go. Do I need to give you a raise somewhere? We need to give you a raise. Yeah, certainly.
We're going to get a raise in the stipend too.
Absolutely, at least for the next 3 years. You know, we got this for fun.
Retention.
So anyhow, again, I appreciate your hard work, that and for yourself and your staff working so diligently. And I know the long hours you guys have to work at times, and I appreciate that, really.
I'd also like to point out that the budget is pretty much done. The only thing we'll wait for property values. What you see is what we have in the system. It was extracted from there. It's all there. The only thing that I would look at is, and I'll leave notes for the business department. When we get the certified property values, we'll come back and adjust those. If there's any adjustments on state funding, we may adjust a little bit, but it won't be anything major. So for the most part, the budget is done.
Good.
So I don't have any concerns with the staff being able to keep going.
Right.
All funds, everything is reconciled, it's up to date. I will meet with Mrs. Omeros and make sure that she goes over the financials so that she signs off that they're in good standing.
Correct.
And I think the district is going to continue fine. It's in a good pace. So you should be fine.
Dr. Valdez.
Yes, sir. I know you wanted to say something. Yes, Dr. Sorolla.
I would, and Dr. Aziz, if I can just really quickly make a comment, it'd be wrong of me not to advocate on behalf of the insurance committee. Mr. Rivera and I met with the insurance committee at least 3 times, possibly 4 times to get their feedback. And I know the 2 scenarios that were presented to you with regard to the insurance contribution and raises. I know one scenario involved an increase from 505 to 550 for the district contribution, and one of them involved no increase. Our work with Gallagher reflected that if the district doesn't increase the contribution, obviously the employees will pick up that entire expense, and we do expect those costs to go up next year. The committee was very ecstatic at the possibility of the district increasing its contribution to 550. So I wanted you guys to be aware of that as you make this decision.
Right. No, absolutely. I concur with you that if we're going to increase, it needs to come both from the employee and the employer. Yeah, that would be the most justifiable thing to do.
Okay.
I think the district has been very conservative and has paid really most of the insurance for the employees. So yeah, no problem. I certainly agree with you.
Okay, so just because of what Dr. Sorolla mentioned, so we're still sticking with this plan, right, with the no increase on the benefit. We're going to keep it at 505 and increase the auxiliary to 9%.
The reason I mentioned this is because this was not of the 2 options. The increase was what the committee wanted to, recommend or encourage.
So the increase would be actually the proposed, the committee was on the right side, the green one.
Yeah, well, the 550, because that allows for both the employees in the district to share the increase in cost.
Do a co-share, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that you can see that $45 increase of the district would be adding, I guess, to increase it to 550. That cost will be $1.161 million for the district, right? So I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. If we do it that way, or we put it toward raises, right? So because we only have this bottom,
I agree with you.
right? And we cannot add more. That's what we have, and so we have to decide how we're going to split that money that we're trying to give, either raises or maybe combination of raises and also additional contribution toward the health benefit for our staff.
Could that 45 that you're talking about go to the employee?
Yes, but it would increase the total cost for that at 5.7 million, 5.8 million.
Yeah. So we don't have to make a decision. Obviously, we're not making decisions today, but just for your information, FYI, more than anything.
I'm willing, and I don't know the rest of the board, I'm willing to entertain that if there's going to be an increase in the insurance, then I think it'd be split. It's got to come from the employer and the employee. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's Dr. Aziz. I mean, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it,
I think it's the best decision, in my opinion, right? I mean, I think would be, it's almost similar, like, so, $45 per month times 12, that's over $500 that we are not giving as a raise, but we actually helping with an increase of cost of the
Right.
benefit. So
Right.
Hey,
it's,
Sue.
yeah, hey,
Sue.
sir, how you doing? Hi,
Hey,
sir.
hey,
Good.
hey. So what I would like to see, can you put that in black and white? Because we've had a lot of issues with insurance, and I know that when me and Mr. Perez and Marty came in, I know we brought in Gallagher to come and do some work,
Mhm.
and then there were some discrepancies with their contract, and we didn't find out till a year later. And then obviously we're going out for RFPs or RFQs now. I think that if you're wanting to increase that
Mhm.
or decrease it, however you want, I think if we can put it in black and white, so we can have the numbers, and we can really, take it to the board in the next meeting and vote on it.
Yes.
I think it'd be a lot better if we have it in black and white.
Yes, sir.
There'll be a presentation on Tuesday on this very topic, and the recommendation that we're gonna, at least from the committee, is this increase of 45. That would be the recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, but Mr. Arias can do it. He can do a much better explanation than I can, but I wanted you guys to be aware of this as you're considering different race scenarios.
Yeah, we'll, in
Yes.
other words, Dr. Shola is saying is we're gonna discuss it with more details on Tuesday.
Yeah,
That's right.
no, then that's no problem.
Right.
That's all I'm asking, because I know that the employees, we've had a lot of concerns with the employees on their on the deductions, the co-pay and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that all the board is on the same page before we take any action on that.
Yes, sir. You got it.
correct. And it's, Dr. Sotola, also, it might be, I guess, maybe interesting also to see, maybe poll 3 or 4 districts similar to us. And I think you're gonna see that insurance, that the cost that goes to the district is a lot lower in most of the districts than what Donna's already paying. I think Donna's one of the top ones that contributes the most towards the employee insurance. So I think they need to see that as well.
They actually have seen that presentation. It was part of our discussion, and we're like, you're right, we're one of the higher ones. Mhm.
Dr. Sorolla,
Right.
I think what to Dr. Valdez's point, I think maybe we have to include that slide, because that capture every school district contribution. I think we have to add that
Yes.
slide as part of Mr. Lou Arias' presentation. I think that would be helpful. That's what I think what she's asking.
We'll do it,
Exactly. Very
definitely.
good.
Mhm.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
When we looked at the increase or the projected increase in cost for next year, the $45 about evenly split the increase with the employer-employee share. So I think the $45 was fair.
Yes, I think so too.
Okay.
I think so.
All right. Well, thank you again. Any questions? If not, thank you again, Ms. Cancino, for putting this together and sharing the. To me, it's a lot of great news about our financial standing, and also the possible raises and stipends for our staff. So good. Thank you. All right. So I know that, let me just make sure I am ready here. So I think last board, no, maybe the one before, we had somebody from TASB presenting about our facility, right? So they did the facility assessment. They took a lot of time because of COVID. They couldn't come and do the finish the facility assessment. So they finally were able to do that. And they share with us briefly via Zoom the dashboard where they capture all the data, all the information that their assessment, in other words. And so I shared with Ms. Gonzalez earlier, all your username and password. So each one of our board members will have access to this dashboard, so you can look at it, take a look at how every campus is doing as far as the facility assessment, the needs, etc. But I want to just go back to share with you that same dashboard. So this is, I hope you can see my screen. Can you see it? Yes, very good. So this is the facility assessment that the dashboard that where our TASB created everything and capture everything. So this is our district. As you can see, this is our address, the replacement cost, but this is the number that we have to pay attention to. This is the condition budget, and the condition budget is pretty much how much it will cost our district if we want to bring our district up to speed to where it's supposed to be. Because remember, there were some issues with the roofing, issues with foundation in certain schools, issues with HVAC that need to be replaced. So when you look at all that stuff, and when TASB did their assessment, the estimated cost, right, to bring not to build new buildings, just to bring it up to speed, is really $138 million and some change, right, that will be needed to fix everything. And so if you scroll down, and again, you'll have access to all this, you can see for every campus, the replacement budget, the physical condition budget. And so you can see more or less what's needed for any of these campuses. Now, I'm not the expert when it comes to the details. So obviously, we will invite TASB again to have this conversation with us. But I want to make sure that you have a chance at least to look at it. Some of it is very straightforward. Some of it might require some more details. And then you could click on sites. You actually can look at every campus, like every campus and their need, right? So let's say we look at Lenore. This is Lenore, and this is the replacement cost. If we want to build a new Lenore, it will cost us about $19.5 million, right? But if we just want to bring it to up to condition, up to, fix whatever issues we have, if it's roofing or HVAC, whatever, it's going to cost us about $2.147 million, right? Just to fix it up. And you can actually go and get into more details. So you can click on here and you can look at the funding for the facility funding and talk about everything and things. So foundation, for example, you see it's green. There are no issues there, but you can see the HVAC plumbing, there is poor, right? There is numerous packages and split, etc. So we need to fix the HVAC and the plumbing and Lenore, right? So those are, and that's how we create a priority about this project. There's also some more facility details to give you more details about the facility, and you can take a look at everything, give you a lot of good information there. Oh, let me see. I think should be also a lot of pictures also, because what they do, they take pictures. And so they can actually, you don't even have to go to take a look at the major issues. You actually can just take a look at these pictures, and they give you, more or less information, I guess. But anyway, so this is for example, the facility, the assessment dashboard that TASB created for us. And the reason we're talking about this is because there's a plenty of need that our district needs to kind of address and really try to figure out what, the next steps. Obviously, it's going to require a lot of work, a lot of community work, a lot of engagement from our stakeholders. But as you can see, and this is just an example, we also have to create a priority list and all those kind of good things, but it's going to require a lot of engagement with our stakeholders and our community. Again, this is the number that's going to require, or we're going to need to fix things. As you know, this is something that we cannot sustain or fix based on our annual budget, right? This is something that's going to most likely require going out for a bond, and hopefully with your approval and support and the support of our community, we can come up, with the priority list, the bond amount, and hopefully, seek approval from our voters, right? So, but anyway, so that's where we are discussing here. And I don't want to take any more of your time. Again, you will have access to this dashboard. And if you have any questions, if you need us to bring TASB again to discuss their findings or their assessment, we'll be more than happy to do so. But at this time, I would like to see if Dr. De Los Santos, our financial advisor who's representing Estrada Hinojosa with us, so he can maybe talk to us about possibly funding these projects. Do we know if Mr.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, sir.
I don't know if you can see me or not. I think we're having problems with our camera.
All righty, sir.
Madam President, Dr. President, Mari Valdez, members of the board, Dr. Asais, Ludivina Cancino. Sorry to hear that you're leaving, girl. The other members of the staff that are present, thank you for allowing us the opportunity. With me are Bobby Villarreal and Angel Magallanes are with me. What we'd like to do is put a brief, first of all, let me say that everything that I'm going to talk about here is totally draft. I'm going to tell you the assumptions that we built this presentation on, and then that all of this can change. As a matter of fact, from when we started visiting with Dr. Azaiz and started running some numbers for you, based on the figures that he ran about that TASB came up with, the total cost of $138 million. We got the orders to run some numbers just so that you could get an idea of what it would cost you. But after we heard that he has chosen to move on to Round Rock, and now that we hear that Ludivina is also moving, we ran the numbers for you based on a November election. And I'm going to speak to you just for one moment as a superintendent. Because you're without a superintendent and you're going to be devoting a lot of time to searching for a superintendent, I think November is probably needs to be May. And I don't know what the situation is for May, whether you have other elections going on, including board elections or city elections. I'm not sure. But if May is clear for you, May of 22, our numbers that I'm going to present to you would change, and they would change for the better, because you wouldn't have a payment in 2022, or you wouldn't have a payment next year. But for purposes of discussion only, so that you have an idea of what it would cost you. Plus, one other thing, the plan that Dr. Azaiz just presented, whoever your new leader is, needs to be very familiar with that plan and understand, put it into a picture with us as your financial advisor, so that you can come up with what is called in the business a capital improvement plan. Not only the facilities that need improvement, but the funding for those facilities. And so that's going to take some work on our part with your new administration. And it's going to change this picture a little bit, but I'm going to give you the picture anyway. The first part of the information that I want to offer to you is the assumptions. What do we base the information how do we come up with numbers? How do we come up with a tax rate increase or decrease, or the impact on a tax rate? So the slide that you have in front of you, and notice it says draft for discussion only. We ran this slide based on a November the 2nd, 2021 election. Of course, the date there, 6/2/2021, is today, where I'm presenting to you. And what we did, we ran and we said, okay, supposing that, we ran it we ran it in tranches. In other words, you wouldn't go out and sell the whole amount of the bond in one shot, but rather you would sell half and wait a couple of years and sell another half. And the reason you would do that is the second half you would be selling when you have a natural decline in the current debt service, so that your tax rate would not be impacted up. It would be tempered. We ran it on the assumptions of assessed valuations in 2022 of $1.8 million. The taxable AV increases, we said that in 2022, that included in there 7.79%. That was when Ludi gave us the numbers, the preliminary numbers from the appraisal district, that you would be having a substantial increase in values. And then we said for the next 5 years after we did this, up to 2027, 2% increase in values, which is very conservative. Now, for your information, the better your value, the higher your values, the more your pennies raise, the less pennies you have to raise to make the district side of the payments. We ran your ADA at 12.8. And the reason I'm going through these assumptions is because any one of these numbers is going to change between now and the time that you have an election, sometime whenever you choose to have it. Our recommendation would be May of 2022. Your INS fund balance contributions, you have approximately $5 million in your fund balance, INS fund balance. And what that means is that that money, that fund balance cannot be used for anything, nothing. You can't buy anything. You can use it only to pay voted debt. So you can either use it to pay your current voted debt, or you can, what we did with it was we included it in payments of future bond debt to lower the tax rate for you. The interest rates are based, again, interest rates, we don't know what's going to happen in a year or two, but we were very conservative. That we said that 100 basis points, which is 1%, we increased that for the first tranche, which would be the first sale, and the second one, 150 basis points, because we're going 2 years ahead. 150 basis points is 1.5%. We use the rates as of May 14th, 2021. Those can change. The tax collections rate at 97, probably pretty steady, but it could change. And in the spreadsheets, the tax rate impact is calculated from a 2021 required tax rate of 0.1390, which is your current rate. In other words, that's a starting point for all of the assessments that we did for you. And then we made the assumption that there would be EDA or state support to help you with these bonds. The EDA pays $39.05 per ADA in 2021. And we were very conservative. We say, we assume that it might go down to $35 per ADA. That's included in there. So we're conservative in many aspects because we don't know what the future is going to be. And we believe that the conservatism that we have implemented in here will be to the benefit of the district. I'm going to run 3 scenarios very quickly for you, which is what we agreed on. The last one you see is 139, which would be, it covers all of your bonds. The first scenario is $70 million with 2 tranches. You would be selling, passing a bond, in this case in November, selling your bonds April of 5th of 22, and then the second tranche would be April the 5th of 24, 2 years later. Bobby's helping Angel here with, okay. The second one is $90 million with 45 and 45 being sold at 2 separate times. And the reason that it's prudent to sell at 2 separate times, if you were to go for a bond of $90 million and you sell the $90 million right away, and what I mean by sell means when the first tranche, if you would borrow those $35 million, you're only paying interest on those $35 million until you sell the second $35 million, then you're responsible for that. That becomes debt. Through 4/24, you only have debt on 35, even though you are authorized for $70 million. So it's a way to temper your tax rate, and at the same time, in the year 2022, you have debt only for half of what you have been authorized to do, and you don't sell the other amount until you begin to need it. You can't spend $139 million anyway in 2 years, generally. Now, the breakdown of these is what would it cost you, or what would your tax rate do if you did $70 million? And I gave a summary of some spreadsheets that are very complex that we run, and this is what would happen to your tax rate. In essence, if you look at the very bottom, the 30-year average to borrow $70 million would be about $0.015, $1.04. Look at column 2 where it says INS fund. Those are the $5 million that I said that you have in your INS fund, and we included them in your payments so that we would reduce your payments by those amounts in those years. If you look at the 13.9% or 13.90 cents that you are paying right now in 2021, Next year, you would, if you're selling in 424 of 2022, you would have an increase of a half a penny. The following year, you would have an increase of 0.7 of a penny. The following year is an increase of 6/1000ths of a penny, and so on. Actually, minuses. From there on, they begin minuses. And the minuses are there because at that time, your tax rate begins to drop due to bonds, old bonds that are being paid off. So as you go through that whole process, and also the contributions from the INS fund. But I guess the bottom line is for $70 million, you would be looking at 1.5 pennies of tax rate increase under the assumptions that I gave you earlier. For $90 million, same years, we have the INS fund contributions. For whatever reason, our analysts didn't include the whole 5 million. So once he includes the whole 5 million in this scenario, the tax rate would be less. But you could, in essence, borrow $90 million for a tax rate increase over 30 years, average of 4 cents. In the first 5 or 6 years of that, it would be a total of 3.87, which is about 4 cents. Now, to borrow the whole amount of $130 million to cover all of the needs that TASB calculated for you, we ran $139 million. And the first column, you see the division of the $5 million being put into certain years to reduce the tax rate. To borrow $139 million would be an average of 9 cents over a period of the average for 30 years. Now, those are very, very rough numbers. I'm moving my hands over here like if you could see me, but you can't. That's the way I talk. But those are very, very rough numbers. There are some strategies that we had planned to visit with superintendent and CFO on, and that are still on the table. You heard earlier in the budget presentation, Ms. Cancino talked about you're going to have a compression on your tax rate from the M&O side, and she's planning on using pennies from the disaster to keep your tax rate up a little bit. If we're able to do those kinds of things, and that's why it's going to take some management and with your new administration. If you're able to do those kinds of things and you're able to keep your M&O tax rate higher than what the state is saying is your compressed tax rate, when you come to 22 to sell bonds, then those pennies from the INS could be moved, from the M&O could be moved to the INS, and we could conceivably do some of these projects for the $70 million probably for no tax rate increase at all. In fact, maybe even a tax rate decrease, and all the way up to 139 for a very minimal, not anywhere the 9 cents that you need right now. But we need time. We need time ourselves. We need time to study the plan. We need time with your new administration. And we need for you to consider a May election. And if there was any thinking of a November election on the part of the board, we would ask your financial advisor that your best bet would be to wait the 10 months. They would work in your best interest.
Dr. Los Santos, I hate to interrupt you, but just to clarify again, for our board members, we did run the numbers and we had a really great conversation. And yes, there's a big possibility that we can have a bond with no tax increase for our taxpayers. So it's very doable. I think Dr. De Los Santos has been very humble about it, but it could be done. Really could be done without increasing taxes.
So I think that, you know, they gave you some good news. We were watching the budget presentation, and well done, Ludy. They gave you some good news on your M&O side. And I think we're giving you some good news, but it's very, ¿cómo se dice? Very preliminary, because we need a lot more information, and we're available to you. I mean, this is a freebie. to help new administration develop a capital improvement plan where we take your needs and we put our numbers to them and hopefully bring you, when I say your tax rate increases, that we'll be able to say on the 9 cents, maybe 0, maybe 2, maybe 3, something that is acceptable to the community. Now, in doing a bond, there are certain things that you have to consider. First and foremost, when is the election? Hopefully you will have an election date in May that's the only thing on the ballot. The other thing, so that people concentrate on them, gives you more time. Between now and next May, we'll have 10 months to develop the plan, get people acclimated to the needs and so on. Sell the people on the needs, make sure that they understand that this didn't come out of the air. Somebody studied over 10 months, what are the needs of the district? Show the people the schools and where the breakdowns are that need to be improved. All of those facets are part of the bond election. And then gain the figure out a system in which you ensure to the community that what you say you're going to do with your bonds, you're going to do with your bonds. That is always, last election you had, you said we're going to borrow $55 million and we're going to build a new high school. And that is what you did. You kept the promise on those. Previous bonds, you have kept your promises. And that's what people think about when they come, whether they come out to the bond election round. Now I'm giving you the lecture I used to give to my students in college about passing bonds. But those are all part of the package. At some point in time, we need to have a workshop just for that. So it doesn't have to be, and probably after you settle in with your new administration. In the meantime, we'll be working, we're hoping to get a copy of the plan and a copy of the budget that was presented tonight. And we'll be intermingling them with our own work. So
Dr. Los Santos, thank you. You want me out as soon as possible, right? Hey, new administration. I'm just joking with you. Hey, I'm just kidding.
And we'll continue
with you, sir. I'm playing with you.
We'll continue to work with you, but it's going to be very, very limited. So
I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Up to that point,
thank you.
We'll work with you.
No, thank you. And I wanna really commend you and the team, right, Bobby and everybody, right, for really meeting with us and having this conversation around the numbers. It's very promising, and I'm glad you're sharing all this information with our board members tonight. So thank you.
Okay, we're open to any questions. And it's all preliminary. All just, let's start thinking about something. If you want to address the needs of the schools, of facilities. By the way, just as a matter of information, we're at the island in Angel's hotel room, and Angel's got a view of the beach here. Wow. Estrada Hinojosa is not paying for it.
Hey, is he allowed to talk? Is he allowed to talk today?
I hear his laughing. I hear his voice laughing in the background.
Needs to stay focused.
Focus.
No, thank you, Dr. De Los Santos. I really appreciate all the information you've provided us. And I have to say, I do agree with you that I see a May bond election more feasible than a November one. So I do agree with you there. And I think for the next May, I don't think there's any city or school board elections at all. So
right.
That's great. Thank you.
Community outreach.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be meeting with you again in the next couple of months, or whenever you choose to hear more. It's always a pleasure working with you guys. Good evening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Dr. Valdez, that concludes our workshop. Unless you have any other questions for us, and we hope to see you. We have another board. The regular board meeting would be on June 8th next week. So hopefully see you on Tuesday.
Okay. That's it. No questions from anybody? So we're good. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.